All right. Well, then let's pray. Good and gracious God, we thank you for bringing us here this evening. We thank you for the life, work, and mission of this cathedral. We ask that you be with us in our conversation tonight, guide our hearts and our minds, give us send your discerning spirit upon us so that we can seek to do your will, and give us the strength and forbearance to do and follow where you would lead. And we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Marge, I did not, unless somebody saw something that I didn't send the minutes out from the last meeting. So we'll just have to do that next time. And so we'll just hop into the treasurer's report. We talked about this at the finance committee last week. So I think we can just go through the nuts and bolts of it quick, and then we have something we wanted to toss out regarding the bigger picture of finances tonight. So anybody who's there is welcome to chime in to the basically everything. We're on track. Steve, push Steve.
Oh, yeah, Steve.
He said the Bucks traffic is bad, but he'll get here soon. We're basically on track with where we thought we would be, with the exception of there was a crisscross, I think, in John Seaman's pension payment. Wasn't that for that she was going to track down? I'm going to just close this door.
Sure.
It was $2,400, 51 cents, $2,451 instead of $1,183, which is budgeted. So she's going to check that out.
Is that what the 2122 is? Overpayment to John Seaman? 232.89.
It's on page
Yes.
2 of the income and expense.
On page 2 under pension. Maybe we could has Chuck come in to talk to this new group?
Oh, not to do.
To,
No. He was here last, recently.
I think we talked remotely at the beginning of the.
okay.
Oh, that's true.
Because one thing Marge was going to talk to him about is seeing if he could simplify the statement that we get, because there's just an overwhelming amount of detail on it sometimes.
Are you saying there was overpayment in his pension for March 24? It shows $135.
No,
Or is it something else?
it's something else. It's on line 20.2 on page 2, 20.2. So I look at this backwards.
It's the section's insurance.
It's the insurance.
Yeah, the insurance was over 1,000, and the dean's pension on the line above. There were 2 payroll things that she needed to get clarification on. Because if you, let's see, where does it go?
We can see they're so far off from the budget.
Right. And so she had to see whether it was a periodic crossover or an accidental overpayment or whatever, because normally the payroll figures are just, they don't vary. They're just from month to month. But methinks that she had that salt air in her head, and she probably didn't talk to Chuck.
Even though was it the organist salary? It was $1,400 for the month of March, but the budget's $750.
Yeah, and part of that is because he played for 2 ordinations,
Oh,
which we
okay.
pay him for.
Sure.
And then we bill the diocese, that's a diocesan thing. So, so we haven't got the payment in from the diocese for
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
But other than that, there was nothing that was really out of whack. But the bigger question that we talked about trying to figure out how to put across to the congregation and how to talk about it without getting people upset or riled or freaked out was that we do have a deficit budget. And we have for the last 2 years, and it's worked out for the last 2 years. We've come within a couple $1,000s in the last couple of years, and we've got reserves to cover that kind of money. But at some point, it's not gonna. It's just, you can see the demographics, you can see the age of the congregation, you can see the growth rates, and we know that at some point, there's not, if we just, hoping that our reserves cover any budgetary shortfall in perpetuity is just not a sustainable strategy. And to start figuring out ways to address that, getting people to pledge who haven't pledged, and ultimately getting more people through the door. And not just because we want to balance the budget, but because that's what we're supposed to do as a Christian community, to grow and invite people through. And so to start to think about how to do that. Now, one of the ways we're doing that is we met last night, our first ABCD meeting with Jim Gettle last night. I think reaching out to the community to build up partnerships and relationships within the community. That's the kind of thing that will be sustainable over time.
Yeah.
But I think to let it just go until the annual meeting and throw it out there and everybody just draws a collective sigh of relief because we did it one more time, I don't think that's sustainable, and I don't think we're doing anybody any favors by not being a little bit more open. I don't think we're not transparent, but to be more proactive about putting the situation out on an occasional basis and making sure that people understand the reality of the inevitable point where the 2 lines cross and go the other direction. So we talked with the finance committee about putting that out tonight for the chapter, because ultimately the finance committee works on behalf of the chapter. Their group, their purpose is to sort of digest this kind of stuff and track budgetary categories and make sure that things sort of are on track, which they are, but also I think to raise the issues of what do we do in the meantime to look ahead to the point where our surpluses are not going to cover our deficit, because we just don't have super deep reserves. We're still sort of rolling a little bit on PPP money, actually. That's what's in the savings account, besides prepaid pledges and a few memorial accounts.
Historically, we've not really had a surplus that we've been able to count on. And when we present the budget like we did in January and have the attitude or express the attitude that we'll make it through the year, people take that as good news.
Right.
And not for something that we need to act on.
Right. So there's a tension in there. It is good news. I mean, it actually is good news compared with some of the times we were going through like 10 years ago, which we didn't have the reserve and we were looking at some precipitous deficits.
But up to a certain point too, we had the rent coming in. We had 40 years of rent to count on.
Right.
It disappeared.
Right. So, so anyway,
Will we get some of that back though, from what the diocese and the gathering will be renting?
yeah, but that's kind of an off-budget thing as far as the parish goes, because
Oh, it's the corporation.
it's the corporation that money flows in and out of. So as far as the rental income, I mean, one thing I would advocate for is that at some point that the statements of the corporation and the parish are combined, so that, I mean, the parish historically has not known what it costs to heat the building or pay the electric bill or insure the building, maintain the building, because that's something the corporation always did. And
And how does the corporation get money? Through endowments or?
We were close to $1 million endowment back in about 2017, 18. And at the peak from the Living Church, we got $40,000 of rent a year. And then that cut back to 20 as they reduced. They started with X number of square feet. Over the years, they doubled it, and then they went back to their original square footage. But that, in addition to earnings, gave money for maintenance
Right.
every year.
And also the money we have in the corporation, primarily, we had a couple $200,000 to $300,000 in there, I think, when I got here. And then the Blessed Father Bundy
It helped.
left about 6 or 7,
470,000,
500, almost 500.
almost.
Right. That went into the corporation that's been able to, and with the stock market the way it's doing okay, except now the corporation is also in a point where we're drawing down on the principal to pay some of the utility bills. We're also drawing down on the principal to do the improvements in the upstairs.
So the rent is only going to cover those improvements. It's
Right.
paying ourselves back, you know, so it's not going to be income.
Right, no, it's gonna be a push, because the income we'll be getting income from the diocese and from the gathering for rental space, which will be about 20,000 a year between the two of them, which goes back again then, so at least there's some income coming in to cover some of the expenses, but not all of them. But it's something that hasn't been coming in for a while. But as far as the parish budget, that's why I'm wondering if there's a way to combine the two, so that we've just never seen the big picture with the bifurcated kind of structure with the corporation and the parish. The corporation just always seemed like sort of this entity that was out there that people didn't really understand. So.
Throw me in the mix, even today, I'm still confused on I know we've gone in detail about who's responsible for what.
Well,
It seems to be blurry as time's going on here.
The 5 cent story, or the short version of the story, is that when the cathedral was established at the turn of the 20th century, a little bit before that, I think the corporation was actually formed in the 1890s.
1894,
Yeah.
October 18th.
This was a really,
Who's checking?
this was a controversial, having cathedrals was controversial. It hadn't been done, and one of the strategies to isolate the cathedral from the back and forth of national, and even within the diocese it was controversial. I mean, that's how St. Paul's ended up over there, is because they were so mad that they weren't going to be the cathedral, or the bishop wasn't going to be there, that they moved over there. So in order to isolate themselves from the whims of diocesan and national politics within the church, the corporation, the bishop and some people formed a corporation, licensed or registered in the state of Wisconsin, that owned the property that the cathedral is built on. and Nicholson House, and then first the church, then the Guild Hall, and then Nicholson House. All were owned by the corporation. Then over time, it worked out that the corporation also became the repository for gifts, endowments, and other money. And when it started to sort of settle out, and especially by the late 1980s, when the living church, when the upstairs was redone to accommodate the living church, the rent from the upstairs went to the corporation. And then the corporation, since it owned the building, kind of maintained the buildings and the grounds and insured the property and paid the utilities and things like that. Are we in agreement so far on the story?
So far.
Okay. Then,
I just didn't need to give you a test tonight.
no, I mean, it's not that complicated. And then over time, the living church, which was the primary source of income and occasional bequests from estates, until a certain point in time, was able to keep up with what it was paying for. And then at the end of the year, on the parochial report, the income from the corporation had to be reported on the parish's financial statements as income. So it wasn't until that point where the two income streams were actually combined in one single place. And then when the living church started, and I mean, the whole publishing industry has shifted, but when the living church really started pulling back on what they could afford to pay in the space, their income was about halved, and then eventually they left, and we ended up with the empty space upstairs. In the meantime, Father Bundy died, left a huge chunk of change that was able to keep up with some of it. But now we're at a point where the corporation funds, we're drawing down on principal to pay operating expenses. And hopefully a chunk of that anyway is going to be covered by the rent from the upstairs. I think the insurance is about 20 grand a year.
It's gotta be way over it by now, because I think it
Yeah.
was 24 when I turned it over to
Yeah,
Mike.
so, we're still gonna be, at an operational deficit as far as the building goes and what we draw out of the corporation funds.
Well, and another thing was that the utilities were traditionally paid by the parish. And there was a loophole which Bishop White kind of encouraged us to take advantage of until such time as it wouldn't be available, that the corporation would pay the utilities. So that was another 25,000, and it wouldn't be part of the assessment in the parish.
Right.
That advantage is gone, but meanwhile, the corporation is paying for utilities that they didn't at one time in the past.
And part of that was, up until sometime in the 1990s, assessments were based on expenses. And then they shifted to an income-based model. So having the corporation pay the expenses was no longer an advantage that it once was, because now everything is income-based, and anything that the corporation pays on behalf of the parish and the building and all that is counted as in-kind income on our parochial report, which is sort of like our income tax return.
Sure.
So that's the point where we're at right now. The work we're doing right now, some of it upstairs is getting ready. The upstairs that just was in need of updating and maintenance. The bathroom was horrid.
Yes.
The
whole place.
Yeah.
Nothing
And
is
then-
too good for the nuns.
And then
How many years
downstairs,
ago that was, though?
in the basement, there's a bathroom in the basement that,
Lee's bathroom.
What?
Lee's bathroom.
well, or Donald's bathroom, anyway.
But that's not the one you're fixing. That's the
No,
one.
we're not fixing
It's
that
this
one.
one.
We're fixing this one because there was rot in the walls from plumbing leaks, and there's actually structural damage in the walls. And
Sure.
it caused, over time, we can go down and have a look.
There's a massive concrete slab that they put in, I think, to raise the toilet enough to get flushing, and that weight is bearing down
Yeah,
from the outside wall.
right. So the work we're doing in the basement is structural. That was just no way around it. The work upstairs, if we want to have space that is rentable, that's pretty necessary. And then the last big piece coming out of the corporation is we're putting a new roof on the guild hall, because the roof up there right now is 40 plus years old and it's leaking,
1985.
causing damage to
Yeah,
the.
look what's up there. Is it slate? Is
Well,
it?
is
No,
it-
Three-tab shingle.
it's asphalt shingle on this building. So,
Never
it's,
looked up there, so.
yeah, it's leaking upstairs. So, and it was a 20 to 25-year roof.
The guild hall over there,
The
The whole,
whole,
this part
on
too.
this whole part.
this whole part. So that's I think about a.
This is called the Cathedral Institute building, or what is
No,
this?
I just call it the guild hall building,
Guild
Oh,
hall
the
building,
whole-
the
okay.
parish hall or
Library.
whatever. But yeah, the whole middle,
The complex.
Gotcha.
Middle
the whole,
section.
the whole middle,
Plant.
the plant, well, not even the middle part. I mean, everything connected west of the church. So that we're going through, we're back down to probably when all this is done, probably about $300,000 or $400,000 left in the endowment, which is another issue to deal with. We've had many people go off to their greater glory in the last several years, and nobody's left any money to the church. So we need to work on a planned giving sort of campaign to make sure that people remember the church, because that's what we try not to use that money for operating expenses if we don't have to, but you know, replacing roofs and rotting walls and things like that, it just has to be taken care of. So, and this is my own opinion, and we'll have to talk about this at some point, but I don't believe the separate structure between the corporation and the parish works anymore. It's just too fuzzy, and ever since I've been here, I've always felt like it was too an us and a them kind of thing. And I think we need to be able to have a more holistic look at what the whole ball of wax is at any one time. Does us no good for this chapter the chapter, I mean, in some sense, in some sense, we're like a tenant of the corporation. We're in a building that we don't own or control as a parish.
Isn't that true though? That's what the deal is at the Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine in New York City. There's an actual congregation there, but the diocese really runs the show there.
I don't know how other places are, but I do know that in a convention, that first off, we're a parish. Some cathedrals are not parishes.
Yeah,
They're diocesan
Yeah,
entities.
that's very old.
But we're a parish, and in a parish, the vestry or the chapter of a parish is responsible for the physical plant and the finances of the parish. That's the national canons. That's canonical. And I think the structure with I've never believed that the structure with the corporation is canonical. That we've got two vestries in a sense. We've had the corporation and we've had the.
Okay, so what's the relationship with the corporation and the diocese?
Nothing.
Okay, so.
Except that the bishop of Milwaukee was always the president of the corporation.
Right. So, I mean, we could dissolve
So
it. if
that's
we
one of the
want.
things we're fixing now when we go into merger, that the diocese clearly understands it. And there was also, Bishop Miller always claimed that the diocese owned Nicholson House. And that's just wrong. It was just wrong. And so the diocese there's no confusion about the fact that the cathedral owns Nicholson House. So I mean, that's part of the issue we have to talk about. We have to because the Bishop of Milwaukee isn't gonna be, there's not gonna be any such thing as a Bishop of Milwaukee after July, if the,
Has the vote happened?
no, it'll happen in May, and I fully expect that it's gonna pass.
You do?
And then it won't be official until the general convention meets in July. But we don't want the Bishop of Wisconsin meddling in our affairs.
Right.
Right. And that's just a simple bylaw change. But I think the bigger question really is, does this bifurcated leadership structure work in the 21st century? It did in the 19th and 20th century. I don't believe it works now. So.
Well, do we need to like poll the parish or?
No,
how do we move
No,
forward?
we'll make it a full Democratic vote.
no.
How do we move forward on changing it? If that's what we want to do, is it the discussion at this table or what?
It's a discussion between the corporation and the chapter, and I think Jim Gettle would be a good person to help. I don't know if people know, Jim's also a lawyer. He doesn't practice law anymore. He doesn't maintain a license, but he's a trained lawyer. So he's got good insights into this, and, you know.
But I think an exercise over what are the advantages, what were the advantages then? Or we don't even have to worry about history, but are there any advantages? You know, and if the answer, if we go through everything, the answer continues to be, no, not really, no. You know, then that seems to be, because we obviously will have to have an understanding of why we're doing this in order to explain
Right.
it to the.
I think one
Parish.
advantage, oh, sorry.
No, but I was just, you know, I'm sure it was formed for a reason at the time, and
Right.
that reason is no longer valid. But still, I think from a due diligence perspective,
Right.
because there is some level of mystery or not understanding really what the corporation is.
Right.
To help us make sure we're making the right decision too.
I think one thing that does work, but it's not a structural thing, it's a roles thing, is the people who served on the corporation have been very diligent about managing money and watching the buildings, you know, though it's been functionally, it has worked. But that doesn't necessarily have to do with the way it's structured, it has to do with, you know,
Those members.
The people who are
the
involved
people who were involved in.
and the processes that you've set up, you know,
Right.
that would be the thing that we would not want to cause any unintentional consequences
Right.
by changing something and then realize, oh, but who's
Mo-
gonna do this?
Most
Or-
parishes that have endowments, what they have an endowment board that manages the endowments but they do it on behalf of the chapter, or they do it on behalf of the vestry. And they're like a subgroup of the vestry. That's canonically how it's supposed to work.
And that
And would their
seems,
financials reflect that then,
Yes.
everything? Okay.
that seems to be how it was functioning in the days I was first aware of it. But the interesting thing that happened was the Fabric Committee or Building and Grounds Committee was always the group that watched over the buildings, planned maintenance. If the parish could pay a contract, that was good. If it was a bigger project, the corporation would assist, but it was very separate. And then over a period of years, I was on the corporation, Marshall Pepper, Jim Ortonby, and Dick Bradley, who were also the main part of the Fabric Committee. And it got so intertwined then. And most of the people that are here today only know it operating that way.
Right.
You and I spoke briefly about this on Sunday. You talked about engaging an attorney. Has there been any movement on that?
No, I think the corporation is back to meeting monthly. And I think probably maybe in the summer, it would be a good time for the two bodies to meet jointly and start looking at what does the big picture look like and what is the best structure that serves. And there's never been any doubt that both bodies served the cathedral. Everybody was working for the betterment of the cathedral. It would working at it sometimes from two different angles, and there was never any one entity that was in charge of the cathedral. I always said the cathedral is like the Security Council in the UN, because we had the bishop, the dean, the corporation, the chapter, and like any one of those, and it was all intertwined, and any one of those entities could shoot down any major move forward, you know. And some of the bishops historically have been really engaged with the life of the cathedral. Bishop White sort of was, but not too
You like
much.
the corporation.
He liked the corporation. Bishop Miller, actually, one of his strengths was, I think he liked the cathedral. I think he liked being around, he liked the people. The relationship between the bishop and the corporation and the parish often had to do with the personality of the bishop too. And also as we go forward, we don't even know what it means under the new scheme of things, what it's going to mean to be the cathedral. We're going to have 3 cathedrals. So I think my long and short of it is, I'm going to give an update in a little bit. If we merge, it's going to take them 5 years to get their act together and figure out how this thing is going to work. If we don't merge, we're going to have to call a new bishop in Milwaukee, and it'll be 5 years.
Either way.
Before somebody's in place and ready to take,
Hey,
ready to take any kind of leadership position. So for better or for worse, I think we got 5 years to do whatever we want. And I think that's a good thing, because I think what we can say is, this is what we're doing. This is who we believe we are. This is what we believe our mission and ministry is. You all are welcome to hop on board with us and not have some vast and structure in Stevens Point or whatever, you know, try to tell us. So I don't even remember how we got off onto this. Oh,
It's always me.
yeah, no. So that's kind of the big picture, and but it comes back to the end that either way we have a deficit that we need to sort of get in front of with the narrative and strategically how we start looking at this in the years to come. It's nothing that's going to take us down this year or next year, but probably after that, it could really start getting tight again, and to start looking at how to deal with that now when we have choices, instead of then when all of a sudden something gets foisted on us through circumstances beyond our control.
We talked at length last time about posting a skinny financial statement, and I think that's important. And even maybe a monthly one, maybe the first Sunday of the month, post it in the bulletin, actually, not the bulletin, I guess, the program, if you will.
Yep.
For the previous month.
We talked about this at the finance committee on Monday, and I think we sort of settled on quarterly. We thought that quarterly would be a good, it wouldn't, monthly, when you start getting people too much too often, they start ignoring it. So we thought quarterly, when the quarterly statements are in, would be a good time just to do a snapshot thing for the budget.
Agreed.
So.
We used to do that.
Good.
Maybe not when you were here, but I've it's been a long time, but
Yeah.
it used to be in the bulletin. Oh,
The
yeah.
lifer speaks.
Right.
Yeah. I think,
So that was one of the things Marge was going to do, was going to talk to Chuck about doing a much more consolidated version of the statement that we could put in the bulletin and in the e-news that would be much more digestible. This is a pretty
oh, yeah.
overkill.
But what was used to be in there would just say, like pledges that were collected,
Right.
how far it off was from the budget and the
Right.
expense.
We need a truly stimulus statement.
Actually, I was thinking of this, there was that other lady who quit, because she didn't like
Kimberly.
Gary. Yeah, Kimberly.
Oh, yeah, right. So when Marge gets back, I think the the finance committee sort of wanted the chapter just to sort of endorse the idea of doing a quarterly report for the parish, and then to do the normal stuff, you know, what are where are we with expenses, income, pledges, that kind of stuff, and where we are with the shrinking deficit, you know, as the deficit shrinks through the year, where we are with that, so that people, I think if people had that information, if they could see the actual deficit, that would be a much, but it's really hard to discern that. Even, I don't think you can even tell from this document what the actual,
What's missing is heating and air conditioning and heating, electricity.
Right.
You know, all these utilities that dwarf a lot of these other expenses.
yeah, and it is. I think the heating bill for this building was about 20 grand last year.
You mean this in the church?
Yeah,
More than that.
is it?
Because I was
I
writing
would think
checks
it'd be
more
40
than
or
that.
50.
Yeah.
By the time you get done heating the second floor of this,
And then the insurance on the buildings is the other big one, the
Right.
same kind of amount.
Right. And like, the upstairs is actually air conditioned, but that's part of the lease with the new tenants, is it's metered separately, the upstairs.
Okay.
And so they can pay their own electric upstairs, but the heating, we can't separate the heating. It's not zoned. I mean, basically our heating control is off or on. That's,
Oh,
and with a few little variations in between, so.
Are we on city steam, I'm assuming, is that like that?
Yes.
If you said something previously before I got here regarding specific items on the budget, then I apologize. Art, I have a question like that. Can you address, are you,
We can give it a shot.
okay. On page 2, expense item
Yeah.
20.2, insurance.
Yeah,
we're talking.
Oh, did you already talk about that? I'm sorry.
that's John's, we pay John's health insurance.
Uh-huh.
That's not like building casualty insurance or liability insurance.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
But so it seemed like it was much above budget. Was there some?
That's what Marge was gonna find out from Chuck, why
Oh,
there's a
okay.
difference, because
Okay.
usually the payroll numbers are very static
Sure, yeah,
through the year, so.
I didn't budget for the Bucks playoff game tonight.
So that's sort of the long and short of the finances. So we'll stick, when March comes back, we'll stick a quarterly, January, February, March, April, May, June. January, February, March, we're at the end of the first quarter. So she'll get the information from Chuck, and we'll try to come up with a format that puts it across in a digestible sort of way. And then I'll talk, the corporation, well, maybe we should just plan on the May meeting being a joint meeting to start talking about some of this stuff.
which meeting?
Good idea.
The May meeting,
Zoom
That's a
meeting?
Zoom. I thought you wanted to be in person.
June should be in person.
we could
Unless you
do,
Switch them.
We could also just make it not a Zoom meeting.
Right.
Because it's a pretty pertinent topic.
Right.
And then is Dick able to even make
Either way.
it?
well, we'll have somebody probably have to come over and pick up Dick and haul him over. So, yeah, we'll get Dick over. But I would rather wait, I'd rather do it in May. I'd rather,
We could even. meet
you know,
at
you're
St.
absolutely right. We could meet at St. John's. They've got some nice,
Very.
they've got some nice meetings.
Horatio.
Yeah,
Who else would have
Brand
to
new.
come
What's
besides
the
Dick?
parking
Lynn?
lot?
No.
She done that
it's
already?
good.
Just been long off.
And
Yeah.
Mike, is that it?
Mike is on.
It's all Mike. And who
What's
else?
the name
Yeah.
of the lady in church that
Oh.
comes almost every Sunday and she's really got the bad osteo?
Bev Dupree. Yeah, so, all right, I'll talk to Dick, because we were gonna have a corporation meeting at St. John's. Dick has got mobility issues, plus John, his husband, is not well, and so Dick doesn't like to venture out, especially at night. But I do think he likes showing the joint off And maybe he'll invite us, up to, for cocktails or something after the. They own like half of the 18th floor. It's
It's a nice unit.
it's very nice.
It has great views.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, you could give them a choice if they can't do the May, the June, try the May 1st.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk to, okay. So that, I mean, that's the financial piece. It's nothing we're gonna fix tonight, but it's something we need to start putting out in a systematic and public way so that people understand the reality of it. I always say I'm not naive about money. I know our outgo doesn't necessarily match our income. I also don't lose a lot of sleep over it, because we've got generous people and we have potential. I think that's probably what we're working on right now is where is the true potential of this place? Because if we untap the true potential of it.
If we just
Yeah.
hoard the money and try to make it last as long as possible, the same result will happen and
Right.
less will have been accomplished.
Right. So how do people feel about that? Are you?
I think it's a great idea. It represents progress. We're moving forward, having made a new chapter in the corporation. That's
Yeah.
Will it
moving
be on
things
the
along.
agenda, though, that in the long run, we're looking at ways we can incorporate the two?
I think that's got to be.
Or are we gonna just discuss?
No, I think that's got to be a narrative
Yeah.
that goes side by side, that we keep on the forefront of things.
Over cocktails at Dick's.
Over cocktails at Dick's, yeah. Because the practicality of it is, especially with the merger, that we have bylaw changes to make.
Mhm.
And both in the parish bylaws and in the corporation bylaws. And,
But I like the idea of a separate portion of the committee that would still be looking at the endowments, because that's
right,
forte. But the other thing is, the way it is right now, with us not paying the utility bills, it's just like, when your grandpa's gonna take care of it,
right,
And you don't have any clue what it is.
Yeah.
right, right. And for better or for worse, that's how it is, and it's not serving anybody right now.
We don't really know the true cost
No.
of keeping this
Right.
place going that way
Right.
either.
And the
And-
parish doesn't know that
No.
money's not gonna last forever either.
Right, right.
And it's
And-
not like there's sources coming in
I was
all the
gonna
time.
say, how long until the corporation could be looking at that kind of a deficit too? Right?
Probably not, I mean, a decade,
But
not
still-
next year, but
Right.
in the,
Technically, it must be at that point now, if you look at just the utilities and the insurance versus what, $300,000 or $400,000 can earn if you figure 4% income
right,
off of that.
right. And we really need to get people to remember us in their
Yes.
will.
No, we've talked about, this isn't probably the time though, right? Having a workshop on planned giving and stuff.
Yeah.
Bringing somebody
Even
in to do
during-
something like that.
Even during the stewardship campaign, like annually, we should be saying, as you're thinking of giving your gifts,
Or just a special evening night.
Yeah.
Right.
We cook dinner.
And part of that conversation is historically that there's been two places to leave money to.
Mhm.
People could leave money to the parish, or people could leave money to the corporation. And I think at
And
the
the
time,
division was sort of whether it's more in maintenance and keeping the physical structure afloat so that the program can run, or
Right.
whether it was money to run a program,
right, so,
both of which are good.
right. So I think, again, having just a more holistic leadership structure. Plus, one of the problems with the corporation was, and we sort of fixed this sort of with the last bylaw revision, there was no accountability. We're all elected, or you all are elected, so you're accountable to the people. The corporation wasn't. It was self-appointing trustees for life. And then the last time we redid the bylaws, we switched it to limited terms, and then between the bishop, the chapter, and the dean would make appointments. So there was some kind of tangential sort of accountability. But but not elected accountability the way that the Episcopal Church structures everything that we do, right? From the bottom, from electing vestries to electing the diocesan convention to electing people to go to the general convention. It's all bottom-up accountability back to people in the parish. And I think it's important that that kind of accountability, even, I mean, we could even elect members to the endowment board. The chapter could say, okay, that we'll have elections for that position, just like at the diocese, we elect trustees for the trustees of funds. It's still under the control of the diocesan convention, but you elect people with the skills and charism to take care of that task. So there's all kinds of options. There's ways to do it. I just think the days of our money and their money is just not serving us well. But we also don't want to just blow the baby out of the bathwater. Or I guess that's,
I think
Roll
it's- roll the baby out.
Well, I mean, that might be put an M80 in the.
You're in submarine warfare.
right. We want to do it carefully
You're
so
ready to
that
blow this up, aren't you?
there's not unintended consequences that
Yeah.
blow back after time. So,
Well, even the conversation about the roof, right? That, I didn't know, I'm sure the congregation, the parish doesn't know that we're doing that. And historically, my history was, we would say, hey, we gotta put a roof on this place. And this is how much that we have to put in it, but if you don't wanna get wet,
right.
here you go,
What
right?
was that in your letter?
It was
your
in the letter.
e-news?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
it was
put-
in the
It was
e-news.
in the
That's what I
e-news.
put in the e-news so that people would have a broad, but still the complicated nature of the structure of the parish and the corporation.
Oh, yeah.
That wouldn't be
No.
helpful to,
And most people,
it would just glaze over.
right.
I just wanted people to know why there's gonna be a dumpster parked in the driveway.
Ah,
I
You know.
remembered when I tried to pull in there.
that is
When
the
they-
second time tonight I tried.
When they showed up. So that's sort of, I guess that's the financial report for the night. And I'm recording this, you can hear the first part
Okay,
of it.
yeah, I was about to ask, just,
No, you can't have a recap if that's what you're gonna ask.
okay.
And how did the exam go?
Oh, no, it wasn't an exam, it was just, it was corporate tax,
Oh,
so.
okay.
So we don't have to hire a lawyer.
That's right, I was thinking that when the lawyer subject came up earlier.
I
Once
was-
you went into bankruptcy, I don't think we want your assistance with this.
I joked with Jane that we had to go to a lawyer to have the will drawn up. I'm like, well, were you like sleeping that day when they did wills? So anyway, anything else on finances that people want to toss out?
I have a few questions, but I should have
Yeah,
covered
go
the
ahead.
meeting in March. Or, like, it's something for March, like
Oh, okay.
labeling that bothers me.
All right. Okay. If we don't have any objections, then we can move on.
Do we have to accept it or?
Oh, yeah. Should we have a motion to accept, receive, I think technically we received the
Receive.
financial.
I say we receive that treasurer's report.
Sue has moved, Steve has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, senior warden.
The only thing I wanted to talk about was the tea, because it's the only thing on my mind right now. And so if you haven't seen the sign-up book over there, you don't have to actually show up in a hat and a dress to be at the tea. But the gentlemen generally do put on aprons and serve, if possible. You know, if you have it, if you can't be at the tea, then we'll take just about anything. Fruit, there's a whole list of things that you could just bring to it, but you don't have to actually be there. And it's May 18th. I think I've taken some reservations already, so. Last year we had an overflow crowd.
Right.
But we hadn't had a tea for a couple years, so I don't know if it'll be the same this year, but there seems to be interest in it. I think.
And the
that's-
raffle items, who should I give those to?
I put them in the office.
Do we need raffle items?
Oh, yeah, silent auction. Not
Silent
not a
auction.
raffle.
By
silent
when
auction.
Sorry,
by
silent
when did you want those?
We need to have, Catherine and I are gonna work on that, so we need them, have them by the week before the tea, which would be the 11th,
Is,
Kind of stuff do you want?
stuff that'll sell.
Valuable stuff.
It's a silent auction. So it's collectibles, we know we're gonna have a basket of restaurant things already, so coupons, different kinds of coupons, something like that. I've
Like
got
a George Foreman hand or grill type
Possible.
It
thing?
was funny, I literally was thinking about that same thing.
You have one too,
How
you do?
weird.
No, I don't, I was like.
Oh, well, we could bid on it.
Yes.
But, I mean, so far, there's been, somebody donated their entire tea set, so there's plates, cups, saucers, it serves for 8. And it's her mother's, so it's older. So, I mean, we investigate how much it's worth, and then
Oh,
people
okay.
bid on it.
Oh.
And then we see, we usually start at like a quarter of what eBay thinks it's worth and go from there.
So
Okay.
is this all reused kind of secondhand stuff we always do?
Well, some of it is new that Denise always manages to bring new stuff over somehow that she found, but
Is there a theme to it or,
no.
okay,
It's really, it's stuff, as I said in my announcements, one man's discards is another one's treasure. So if you think it's collectible, and you think somebody may want it,
Think we
Or
give
like
them
I
Christmas
solicited
presents.
Richard from Aperitivo for gift cards and then we're putting together like a restaurant. But like experiences, people also bid up like the other silent auctions, like a golf package or a theater night
okay, all right,
or
so,
a
so
cooking
so
thing.
we
Yeah.
take everything that's attractive about it too, even if we were to solicitate
Yeah.
donations from businesses or things like that, we would do that as well, experiences or
Right.
items or,
Right,
okay.
like Glorioso's cooking thing or
Right.
Third Market cooking thing, if somebody wanted to splurge and donate, or, donate one of those.
Or if you have like season tickets to the rep. Or,
Okay,
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
A little bit above my pocket range, but.
but, it's, like we said with the aperitivo, it's a $50 gift card, so it's kind of hard to,
There's 2 of them.
yeah. But I mean, it's kind of hard then to bid on it, so that's why we put more together, so it looks, otherwise,
So wine and whatever else.
right.
Okay,
Something.
perfect. And how many items total do you usually get for that? What would you like to see?
Oh, 15? The tea starts in here, so all the silent auction are here, so the people get to mill around. Then we serve punch. And then the hall is all decorated with donated teacups. People bring in their cups, and every table's a little different. My sister-in-law's been working on the table decorations since last year. And so she's all done with that. They're beautifully done, whatever. And Cindy's gonna play the piano at the beginning so people can walk in. And then we serve assorted tea sandwiches. There's fruit on the table. Chris brings all different kinds of tea, so the tea people walk around with different kinds of tea. And then there's a dessert tray that comes out after that. Starts at 2. It's usually out of here by 4.
Mhm. It's really fun.
It's fun to work as a server too.
It's good food too.
Yes,
I'll polish my shoes.
and next Sunday's reception is
Mhm.
primo.
All the
Good
leftovers.
point.
Yeah.
Good point, Steve.
But I have people on the committee that are, we sort of work that morning to get everything set up, but we need extra help because we're mostly stuck in the kitchen. So there's a list out there and I put some of the things in the bulletin too that you could think about doing.
Okay.
That's all I'm really thinking about right now.
All right, thank you.
Susan, what are our further events for the year at this point beyond that?
The next one, other than book sale, but,
The event, right?
yeah. But the next one that we have planned is some kind of a summer event. We have the weekend planned, but it'll be in the garden or on the street or some kind of a outside kind of thing, people see
Yeah,
us.
ideally, the block party.
Yeah, so John and I talked a little bit about that Sunday, right? Was that Sunday when we were?
Yeah, we were talking something.
About block party that we had approached St. Paul's about, but they had said they don't want to participate.
This what's his name?
Yeah, Father Dietrich, or Raymond said that
He didn't think
he didn't think it would be.
that they would go for it.
Since last week, I found out the Ulster project is coming on the 20th, and I think July.
Ulster,
And that was a weekend that we had tagged for something.
for that garden thing.
Yeah.
What about having it that day?
Well, no.
That's not a good idea?
We have all those visitors and everything and then,
Big crowd.
I thought, were we talking about a Saturday though?
No,
Or
we were talking about a Sunday.
Yeah, and having like
Correct.
even like a service outside
Okay.
with both places, possibly, potentially.
So my question pertains to the ask and then the denial. When he said they, what is they? Like, why wouldn't St. Paul's want to do like shut down the street and have a
Because
gathering?
we have different cultures in the two parishes. And it doesn't,
So is it their vestry or is it him? Is it what?
He's saying the congregation.
I
said it
think
differently.
he has a good read on the congregation, and his sense is people wouldn't show up to something like that.
We used to
and-
have things just in the garden,
And,
you know.
and that's my sense too. I mean, we could just have hamburgers that day or something.
Yeah.
Oh, but when we used to do the Michaelmas, I mean, there was vendors there and things, the garden and a little bit more on the street. So I mean, it's got enough room for whatever we're gonna put together.
4th of July popcorn sale.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus
So-
a true block party where you're blocking off the street. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Yeah.
We've got
Right.
enough area out here to do something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Maybe
Yeah.
we could, I suppose it's
Without
hard to block
pissing
off.
off the neighbors.
block
No,
off Juno.
actually-
Can we block off Juno? Or is that's a main street, right?
I don't think they'd. I was sitting in my office last week, and there was a young woman out there with 2 kids. I mean, like little kids, like a baby and a 2-year-old, and just sitting on a blanket, having a picnic, playing.
In our garden?
Yeah. And when I left to go home, they were still there. So I went to talk to her, and it turns out she lives in the apartment next door. And she said they've come over here before, and she said, "Oh yeah, you're the guy who sits in the window." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah."
that's what happens.
So you gave her a pledge envelope.
And no, and it was just a very pleasant conversation, and she said how much they enjoyed the green space. So maybe an event like that, maybe we send out an invitation to people who live across the street and next door. They live in the apartment that contained the chapel. She said they have stained glass windows in their apartment and incredible woodwork because part of it was the chapel.
In that round building? behind?
When it was
No,
St.
no,
when
in
it was
the-
St. John's home, the older part.
The older part. The round part was the nuns' chapel when the
That was newer too.
Notre Dame sisters bought it and added on to it. But no, this was the original St. John's, like from the back
But
beginning.
even
so-
if we just did the apartments just in one square block around here.
Right.
You know, and have something that's just come on in and see.
Well, and the new apartments right down there, and the new
Right.
apartments in the
Except for the
sets.
guy who walks around nude up in the corner, we're gonna drop him
What?
off. I'll point him out the next time I see
The
him.
aquarium?
Right, yeah, the one that's right there. I was sitting there, I couldn't, never mind.
That happened on Sunday. The choir, he definitely was present and accounted for.
Yeah, so it wasn't.
I heard about it, I didn't see it.
But
Like on
anyway,
purpose? I mean,
don't-
he's just
or-
walking
I
around in that little dining area or whatever, with this all glassed around, right above their, where the alley is.
Yeah.
So anyway, but if, there's a lot of people around and I didn't know there'd be young people.
I didn't either. I don't know what I assumed who lived there. And if you ever look at the aerial view of the whole complex, it's huge.
Hmm.
It's not just, it's like the building you see on Cass Street, and then there's 3 wings that go back into the block. And, you know, the round thing is on the end of one of the wings, and there's 2 more that go back like that too. It's a really big complex.
What are we talking about?
The apartments.
But
next
even
door.
the ones across the street.
This is right back here?
Yeah.
Almost seems like a
All of
neighborhood
what
cookout or
St.
something.
John's.
would be
Right.
good.
Right.
Just literally just, yeah, hamburgers or something.
Hamburgers and hot dogs.
Yeah.
the cornrows.
And the corners.
Yeah, like a corn row, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Maybe
this
some
isn't
music?
hard.
Yeah.
We could
Just
get
something
music.
that- Something, yeah.
Maybe,
The, what you call,
what you call it?
better than therapy.
Yeah. They
Those
still-
guys.
they still
I
get
think
together
that-
every now and then,
And quite frankly, I think that would be way more fun than,
but we can't have it on
Yeah.
720.
Well, we can invite them, and maybe
We could,
he
sure.
could be proven
They
wrong.
just need to see
That's
a
some,
big,
like, I think if
crowd
we keep
here.
fostering the division,
Feel
the
small.
division will continue.
Right.
If we keep saying there's a division, it will continue.
But if
we
we're
keep
gonna
saying,
throw our
I don't think
message
they go
out-
for that, well, maybe we should ask them.
But even if we just did it here and invited them, like.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
just invite them.
Right, let the
Right.
teas
I
and
don't
free food. Now
but
that-
I think if we're gonna put energy into things, to put energy into something like inviting the neighbors.
Yeah.
Would pay off more than
Fighting
other,
that neighbor.
Yeah.
than,
Well, they're
Yeah,
our
sure.
neighbor too.
right.
Yeah, they are.
No,
They're
right.
invited, but even more locally. And we're gonna end
Right.
up walking past our neighbors to go to they see them.
But that's more work than serving a bunch of root beer floats to Irish kids.
So that's what I'm
It's
saying,
too
it couldn't
bad,
be
'cause
on,
we could
couldn't be
have
on
the hamburgers
720
here and the dessert over there
They
if they
could,
would.
they
do
could,
it.
I don't know, they could stay for a hamburger, or they could
Yeah.
just go straight for the dessert table and leave. I don't know.
Well, if you think we can do it at the same time, it's just that, it's more special when it's just them.
I think we could make it work so that everybody feels special.
Okay.
Well, and it would
So
be.
that's
Participation
20th.
And
trophies
the other
for
thing
everybody.
too about that is it would be a unique experience for the people that would come from the community
Right.
and be like, oh, that's super cool that this
Yeah.
connection exists here, right? Like to show the community that this is a living, breathing body going out, and the exposure would be great.
Right.
I have a friend that works at the management company right up the road here that owns a ton of these buildings around here. I'll ask him which ones are theirs and their demographic mix and things like that.
If you put
Or
stuff
do
in
We
there.
put
Yeah,
stuff-
and
But you
also
can
be able to
also-
get stuff into those buildings.
Without having to do the mailing.
Yeah.
But you
Right.
you could get the mailing list for, designated mailing list too, but then that costs like a lot now.
It does. It does. I'll see what I can get.
Well,
for
I
that.
think that sounds like maybe the next after the tea, that's the next big thing,
Right.
to get a group of people, which,
And the next thing is the pig roast.
And
And
the
that's
pig
in
roast.
October.
yeah. Which does speak to item B on new business. So, anything else? Are you-
Oh. Womp womp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you good, Sue?
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to toss out?
Yes, I do.
All right.
When I became junior warden, I had the audacity to ask, well, what is their job description? And in fact, nobody seemed to know one. Dave Barkey informed me that I was in charge of security at the church. Well, news to me. So we'll talk about that later. But I've decided a description of the role that I'm thinking I'm going to be playing would be as Martha, as in Mary and Martha. And in that capacity, my wife and I cleaned out the confessional that was in the nave, which, as this church being 150 years old, has tended to accumulate crap here, there, and everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And so we cleaned a bunch of it out so that the stuff that's in the confessional now is stuff that's going to be used in the services or is available for that. And we will continue with that process over the summer, over several months period. The closet in the basement where the vault is another example of stuff you can't get in there. Don't
open the door.
don't open the door. It's just accumulated stuff. And we're going to pull it out. We're going to find out what's junk,
You
what's
could do
not
that during
junk.
the summer.
We're going to put it back in, so it's going to be organized. Right now, you can't even find where to turn the light on in that place. But that's, it's not real dynamite stuff, but it's that's what I'm shooting for. We have our first aid defibrillator has been renewed. It's all up to date. And Dave Barkey has told me he'd take the responsibility of finding a training program. He hasn't come back yet, but the one he's thinking of is a Red Cross training program, and it costs a little over $100 a person, which seemed to be awfully high. But he said that the thing about it is that there's some ongoing training. You check your email and they say, here's another thing. The issue with the first aid training, from my own experience, is you get it, you understand it, you punch, you work on the dummy, you learn how to do the first aid. You have an idea what to do if someone has a heart attack, if they have a stroke, if they've fallen and start bleeding a lot, things that instead of sitting there saying, what do I do now? You know what, because you have some training, you know what to do. And we're going to work on that. But the thing that appealed to me about what that program was the ongoing training. At any rate, I'll make a report on this more substantively next time we talk. I will work with David and see if we can't get something done together. Another long-range plan is to reduce the fire hazard in the basement. I mean, one thing I'm afraid to touch are the cardboard boxes, because then I'm gonna get all kinds of people mad at me. But in John's room, his workroom, there are probably about 60 or 70 cans of paint. Probably dating back from the 1940s,
Yeah.
wherever. And I would expect a fair amount of those are
Lead-based.
oil-based. And that could be a real problem if a fire breaks out and these things start to catch fire.
There's quite a bit more under the church. Somebody started moving them over there at some point.
Well, you know what? There's a big dumpster out there right now.
Yeah.
And
If
and-
those are oil-based, that's,
But we can find out how to deal with it.
Yeah.
The city of Milwaukee.
but for the other stuff, now, the cardboard boxes are kind of sacrosanct.
I know it. I can't do nothing to do about it.
Right. But
Are they a fire hazard? An outside person might say, yes.
I don't understand how we pass the fire inspection when the guy comes through.
I know he does.
But anyway, but no, in all seriousness, I was talking with Dennis today, and he said after tomorrow, they will have ripped out most of what they're gonna rip out, which means there's a lot of dumpster left to fill. So if there is stuff, there's a dumpster there.
Yeah, if they leave it there long enough, we'll fill it up.
I don't think they'll leave it there very long.
Who's doing anything
Okay.
on Saturday?
But
But I know there's a special way you have to drop the oil off at a certain, the paint off at certain locations, so.
Yeah.
They'll do a
Right.
pickup too sometimes, if you have enough, they'll pick it up.
Well, what we might do is at least segregate if you say, John, what's this paint for? And you say, well, I don't know. Then immediately that goes into,
if the
let's get
paint
rid
is
of
older
it.
than a year, it's no good, and
we'll
just.
talk to, Fred knows a lot about the paint
John
too.
would know what he's using currently. If it's oil-based, your shelf life in the can is long. If it's latex, no. Can rusts out, bottom falls out.
You know, nighttime,
They wouldn't know where it came from.
nighttime.
And then the
Put
final.
little headlamps on.
The final item
Folks are
is a
done.
trivial one. Linda wants to know, there's a cabinet, you said there's a filing cabinet available in the office where Cindy works. It is right now, the filing cabinet for the music on the second floor is absolutely stuffed. And there's stuff sitting on the desk or on the tables, waiting to get filed as soon as there's a place to.
No, let's go up, no, what I was talking about was upstairs. I don't know if they've
Yeah.
got all the files.
There was an empty one up there, I noticed.
Because if we want that, they're gonna go through and they're gonna throw out whatever, the Living Church has gotten their due notice, and they've gotten stuff out of there. So anything left up there is
Okay.
free,
For grabs?
but also the demo guys are gonna go through the whole upstairs and,
Including all where we used to practice choir?
No, no,
The
no.
music room?
no,
Just
no,
the
no.
offices.
Just this end of it, in fact, it's taped off right now, you can't get down to the music part because they didn't want the dust
When did they start?
yesterday. You can go up and have
Yeah.
anyway,
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Linda's gonna be here making sandwiches tomorrow, so.
Alright. Also, just in sort of tangentially to Linda, because she sort of took the lead on this, we go back to the summer schedule on Memorial Day weekend. And on that day, I would like to honor
Jack Hughes.
Jack Hughes. And,
We're gonna let him retire.
well, we're gonna put him on emeritus status, and then he can do whatever he wants. But,
Nice.
yeah, so if you're around, and Stephanie
Cake and
Hansen.
a reception sort of thing?
Stephanie
Yeah,
Hansen's
'cause it's-
coming down from Minneapolis that weekend,
Oh, good.
Stephanie's
Good.
every day.
and so they were very
Yeah, I
close.
can get
Be nice to see you.
Yeah,
So,
Then we can.
So that'll be a
But
9
it's-
o'clock.
Yeah.
It's a 9 o'clock service, so
9 o'clock.
everybody will be here.
Yes.
that's my
Wonderful.
report.
Okay,
Can I just jump in on safety? We were talking on Sunday too. Okay, so just because talking about all the stuff that's accumulated, there's got to be a starter, a manual of some sort that exists from prior years that we can work from,
what do you mean?
right? For safety, usher protocol.
We
No.
were talking about if
There's
you had a
nothing?
chance to go, if you get a chance to go back to Cathedral and the insurance and ask about building safety.
They
nothing?
don't, they didn't. I talked to our agent. I was blown away.
And we don't have anything over the course of 150 years, anything to start with. On
I have a
protocols.
manual, I have a risk management manual that the diocese put out about, I think I got it when I was at St. James. So that's how old it is. It's gotta be at least 15 years.
Okay,
So
well, that's a start.
it could be a starting place.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
And I-
because I don't want to like rewrite the.
Right.
I would amend my report just to say that that's another thing to consider. David has referred me to someplace which seems to, it's sign up, pay money, and they tell you how to be paranoid.
Yeah, we don't.
You know,
want
we just can't, we can't
We just want to be practical.
function that way.
No,
So,
I did talk to my daughter too, and there is a community resource police officer who would be willing to come and talk to us as sort of a conversation kind of thing. I don't know,
Yeah, and there's got to be like
something,
standard.
yeah. Now, he came and talked to us when we were
Or even
looking
from
at
other parishes.
cameras about, in the parking lot, but not necessarily what we do in church.
That's awesome. You have the community resource officer to get them in here to help with. Yeah, that's super cool because I always wonder kind of what they do.
Just like evacuation plans and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
If we need.
Well, then we were talking about what to do with mental issues too, when we had our homeless person showing up.
And it's likely we've never had this kind of a challenge either. I mean, have like, with the people coming in during church and then throughout the week, have you had any issues with security in the building since we last met?
No,
no, I mean, we have periodic issues. That we've always had periodic
Yeah.
issues, but nothing systemic. And our friend seems to have, maybe he's gotten arrested or something.
to a different
So.
church.
All right. You're good?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
I did want to say, since I'm the old person here, back in the day, the junior warden was called the cathedral warden and was appointed by the dean, appointed, not elected. And the senior warden was appointed by the bishop. And whatever that meant, that's, but they weren't elected. And when my dad was a cathedral warden, he did all the fabric stuff.
I think that predates
All
the,
what they call the fabric stuff, That's why his name's out on the sidewalk in the front. And
I might not be a priest if it wasn't. When I joined St. David's in New Berlin, it was in 1993, and they needed a new lawnmower. And they knew I was in construction, so they elected me junior warden. And it's just been downhill ever since.
Nice way to put it.
Um,
And a lawnmower as in like a person or?
No, it's like a big riding, it was a big lot. They needed a new riding lawnmower, so. We met last night with our first ABCD meeting, and that was, I'm glad that process is up and going. One of the things I think would be helpful, all of us are operating within different spheres of influence or different contexts. Think of people who would be good to sit down and talk to. As we go out and we think about who to go out into the community and talk to, we'll talk to anybody. So if you think, and don't be thinking about it in terms of how could they relate to the cathedral, it's the other way around. How can we relate to them? And so, aldermen, block captains, homeowners association presidents, anything. Yeah, no, I mean, Greg, who was here last night, his wife is on the alumni board at MSOE. So anybody like that, keep filing that away. And if you think of somebody, this might be a good person to talk to, drop me an email so we don't lose track of it.
Who is the alder person for here?
Bob Bauman, I think.
The only one I didn't go to school with.
He's been in some hot water recently, hasn't he?
We
I thought he
had
was more big. Yeah.
just
Yeah,
on
that's all.
more mundane kind of things. We did have we had a really good ordination another two weeks ago, and the cathedral acquitted itself, thanks to Sue and to John for their hospitality. They're trying to, we have one more in July, and I think there's one in October. They're trying to squeeze a whole bunch of, Bishop Miller didn't like deacons. For whatever reason, Bishop Miller didn't like deacons. He didn't know what to do with them, whatever. And so there's been all these people in the process just waiting to be ordained. So that's part of it. And then we had some permanent deacons who are ordained, who will be ordained to the priesthood later in the year.
Deacon baby boom.
Yeah, so that was really nice. It was really good. It's so fun to see the church full and just not good singing and people enjoying themselves afterwards. We have the upcoming vote in May, and like I said, I'm just losing no sleep over either way right now. I can sell it both ways. I really think the bigger question is, what do we do for ourselves in the meantime? I do have a meeting with Bishop Gunter the second week in May, right after the vote, to see what does he think. I mean, he was on the steering committee. It's like, what does he think having 3 cathedrals in a diocese means? You know, so I'll report back after I talk to him. He seems to be a nice guy.
Are you steering?
What?
What way are you steering?
Yeah. Ordinations, ABC, Matt. Well, I think that's sort of, that's sort of the only other extraordinary stuff that happened in the last month. So I think that's about it. Any questions? The construction update, we sort of touched on. It did start. Fred is taking home the roof samples tonight. We have to pick a color. Other than that, if we get our color selection into them quickly, they're ready to start the roof. And we don't pick something exotic color-wise, they should be ready to start.
Won't be exotic.
No, I would be willing to bet that would be true. They're ready to go in a couple weeks, so that overlaps really well with, because we don't want to put a lot of work in upstairs and then have a thunderstorm and have it rain and leak. So, so that's about it. The diocese will be moving in. Their move-in date they're shooting, I think, is July, and we'll be on track for that to happen. I also think it's a really good idea. I think it's good that they're moving in, because it just maintains the tie with the diocese and the cathedral and makes us a place where people will be coming to. Part of their agreement is, if they have a meeting and they need the library, they can use the library. So we'll be seeing diocesan visitors coming back into the cathedral like we didn't when they were at Nicholson House. So, so I think that's a good thing.
And that's also sort of a us-them relationship in my
More activity.
experience.
Yeah, right.
More activity around here. during-
Primarily, Gracie Van
Spankerin.
Spankren she's the secretary over there. She'll be here. Sarah Bittner is the diocesan communications person. She's going to be here. And then odds and ends trickling in and out. They're taking primarily 2 offices and a file cabinet room. And then there's a 4th office that's just going to be set up with a desk and a chair. It's like overflow. If they need it for an extra meeting, it's there. If the gathering needs it, the gathering is taking the room above this room, and there's a little room next to it, and the glassed-in area that
What
you.
is the gathering?
What is it?
Yeah.
The Gathering is a feeding program of the diocese, and they do lunches every day at Running Rebels, which is on Fond du Lac and probably 20th, 13th. They've historically had other feeding programs scattered around the diocese. I don't know. I think they only have one going right now.
Because if one had damage or something.
Yeah.
It used to be at St. James.
They
Yeah.
used to be at St. James, right?
I remember volunteering there.
Yep. And then St. James closed, so then they went to St. Ben's for a while, and that didn't work out space-wise, and so then they ended up at Running Rebels. So, but they are an outreach of the diocese. So,
And then they serve lunch on Saturdays. Isn't it breakfast during the week?
I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's
Breakfast during the
breakfast
week.
during the week, and they do lunch, they start serving lunch at 11 on Saturdays.
Okay.
Because we cook at like 8:30 or something, yeah, every second Saturday.
Okay.
You mentioned file cabinets. Do we know if they've got an excess amount? When the Living Church moved in with lots of file cabinets, there was a concern about how to place them upstairs because of the
Because of weight?
weight.
Oh, no, it's all out. The Living Church gave away most of their file cabinets and desks
But if
to.
the diocese, you said, is bringing in files,
I don't think it's
anything out of the ordinary.
anything out of the ordinary.
So much now is on the computer and not the actual paper.
Right. There's very little actual. I think ordination records and disciplinary records have to be maintained in writing. Everything else is like on the computer these days. So,
We can put them down in the vault.
and there will be
It's fairly full.
an official diocesan office somewhere to be determined, but it's probably going to be in the middle of the state somewhere.
Oh.
But I mean, the mail has to go somewhere. The official stuff has to go somewhere. So that's to be determined. This will be kind of like a regional hub.
Well, I was thinking even the e-news that comes from the diocese really is more regional, like we wouldn't want to know what's going on in Eau Claire. You know, necessarily all the events and everything.
Well, you will.
Well, I think it should be regional.
You'll be a better rounded person.
So as they vacate, I have a feeling what we'll end up doing is sitting on Nicholson House. We're talking about draining it for the winter and shutting it down for the winter, because I don't think we'll have any definitive idea of what to do with it before then. Or heating it minimally. And then I just put dwindling volunteer bases, because like with Jack retiring, is Sue,
She wants to be the usher.
she wants
She
to,
wants to be, but I don't think she wants to be usher every day, but she's perfectly willing to be usher.
yeah,
And we've not done any announcement thing, you know, there might be other people out there besides
Right.
Ben who want to serve,
right.
you know, we've not done anything.
I think that the summertime would be a good time to do that, because we don't need as many people to do things. You know, we can bring new people in, they won't be,
Yeah, that's it. And although in summer we don't run into problems with lack of servers, but they could be trained,
right,
you know. at
Right.
least.
We need everyone that wants service too to address them with it.
right,
Yeah, and even readers. And I mean, there's just opportunities that have not been publicized. And I think even we also, I mean, getting back to what you talked about under the treasurer's report, we talked about having some, reconstructing a welcoming committee of some sort.
the
Well-
shepherds.
Yeah, shepherds.
It-
I mean,
There's the jury duty letter approach to getting somebody to consider being a lay reader or an usher. And then there's one that I don't know how that would work, but I just got called to jury duty.
I wasn't gonna send out letters, but I mean, just who to talk to. I mean, one year we had a volunteer fair. All the different committees had out what they do, you know, and.
Well, what, maybe we should be challenged as a chapter to give the dean a name of somebody that he can, like,
Twist the hammer.
invite personally for lunch someplace nice and
I'll-
then,
I'm having dinner with JC and Cheryl tomorrow. No, Thursday night. they're pretty interesting. And they never say diddly, you know?
Were they?
Oh,
Who are they?
oh, they sit it, I can tell you they're assigned seat, but it's at 10
At 10
o'clock, so you wouldn't
What
know.
about,
Yeah,
Who's
I
that?
introduced, I
I
introduced
would
myself
think
to them
it's-
the other day, but I forgot their name.
Who are they?
then,
They're 10 o'clockers. They probably come maybe about half the time. They live in Shorewood.
Yeah, and they live, they
Where do
sit
they
on
sit?
this side of the church.
Are they the ones that Mary managed to drag to coffee hour one Sunday?
Probably.
What
Does
are
he
they
wear
groups?
thick glasses?
I think
No.
so. I don't know.
What's
That's
from
Susan's
where we
husband.
stand, where are they?
On our side.
Not the guy with the mask.
With the
About,
mask.
about
No, this is a-
2/3
this
of the
is
way
the
back,
couple
sort
that
of
got
like right
married
behind
here.
where you guys sit.
Is it JD and,
Mackenzie
Cheryl,
and
he said.
No.
Yeah, it's
The
JD.
sh- The guy's
Is
a
her
little
name
shorter
Jean?
and he has
Jean.
very thick
Jean and
Yes.
JD.
glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They can never fill the
His
flowering
wife's
off, I think,
taller
because they say a memoriam of their own,
and-
of themselves.
I swear they were married.
But I introduced myself to her and then
But
probably
it's not
forgot her name.
Mackenzie.
Yeah, no,
They
they're-
came,
they're
they
quite
did some
nice.
volunteering, but then I haven't seen them since.
Who is that now?
Mackenzie and Adam.
Mm.
Adam.
Yeah, they come. I think they do a young people thing. Like,
I
have,
remember
they have
those.
fun.
I remember
Who are you
those.
calling old?
What do they think word do they wear?
So I think
That's
that's
why you're here.
another, I mean, if you talk to people and they express an interest, it's, let's plug them in, you know?
I
So-
still think we need to have a place that lists all the opportunities concisely,
Update
Yes.
book.
Yep.
All right.
and where there may be some vacancies. If we have, okay, we need 6 ushers on rotation. We've got
Right,
2
because we don't,
vacancies.
right now, I mean, it's the same, Jack's there all the time, and I don't think Susan wants to be there all the time either.
Right.
yeah,
But
and Dr.
between-
Keene too.
Dr. Keene and Michelle,
Those Jack and Dr. Keene have been the ushers every
Right.
Sundays for,
Carol.
like, they've got the Lou
Carol's
Gehrig
not been ushering, but
longevity
Michelle
streak.
DaCosta is always on the list, and she's there most of the time.
All right. Well,
And then
yeah,
there's 8 o'clock.
Is it Jack all the
Yeah.
time? Well, you go find somebody at 8 o'clock.
Coffee hour.
Yeah,
I think that's all I have for today.
really?
Yeah.
Mean I might get home before the game's over?
Oh,
What's committee?
oh, committees.
Yeah.
We have standing committees that sometimes are doing things and sometimes they don't. One thing I want to be aware of is make sure that, the bylaws say the nomination committee has got to get going in September, I think, or August.
September.
So we want to keep an eye on that. Rules committee's not, that's going to blow up as soon as we start bylaws and stuff. So, and community engagement, I think we can call that the ABCD group.
Right.
And stewardship, is to keep those on the forefront of our heads.
Is fundraising, is that a committee?
It's not a standing committee apparently.
I think we really need to get back to having a building and
I
grounds
was just saying, we
committee.
don't have that.
If nothing else, to have a survey of the building and see what things we can ignore and what other little hidden things really ought to be dealt with. Like the missing stairway under the tower.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah, that's going to get somebody one day.
Yeah. Half the stairway is rotted off, bottom half.
You've got to give me a thorough tour of this
Yeah.
entire complex. I've never been upstairs, I've been in the basement, the whole box.
How high do you climb?
I think that would, no, frankly, that would be helpful, maybe.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
Is that-
With the
is that-
complex
is that
that we're
tape
dealing
still
with
out
here.
there somewhere? Of him crawling
Maybe
around the
sometime
urban
Spelunking.
urban
spelunking?
It should be done, like the basement doesn't matter that much, but it is helpful to do this in the daylight, especially if you go up into the tower. But, yeah, maybe now that it's light out at night, maybe after work one night, if people want to take a tour through there, we could
Or even upstairs. I mean,
go
I'm
have a
talking
look
about
and
what's
go
going
grab
on
a
up
burger
there.
or something like that.
I'll be down.
I walk up there anytime.
So upstairs, I would take,
Not
the
now.
upstairs is really torn apart right now.
Right.
And it's not really safe for casual.
What if one or two people sneak up there?
You're welcome to do it, just be careful, because It is all torn up. There's no holes in the floor or anything like that. So, well, there is in the bathroom. If you want to go look at the bathroom, they got the bathroom down to the studs.
Yeah, I wanna see what that looks
So,
like now.
but you have to go up these stairs.
Sure, because you said it's taped off.
It's taped off halfway in between the two stairways.
Yeah.
So. So anything else? All right. Hey, I know do you know your punch recipe off the top of your head?
Which one, the one that he's been doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is?
Yeah, ginger beer,
I mean,
For how many? For how big of a group? One batch?
one batch.
One, what is it, quart?
1 quart of
Lemonade.
lemonade,
Just
I think. didn't
1
it?
liter of club soda and 4 cans of ginger beer,
Ginger beer.
or how many ounces would that be?
1 liter of,
48 ounces of
Probably
ginger
the same.
beer.
so it's,
And that's a ballpark. I mean, it's punch.
Well, right.
So there's no like specific.
do you put like basil or mint or something in
Mint.
it?
Mint.
Mint?
quarter lemonade, 1 liter of club soda.
Club soda.
It's really good. It's really
Yeah.
refreshing.
I just made it up.
It was
You
limeade.
made
last
it up?
time.
Limeade or lemonade,
Yeah.
or the raspberry
The
lemonade.
limeade and the ginger.
Whatever your
beer.
fancy is. It's a limeade is, yeah.
And this Kroger ginger beer is far
That's really
cheaper
good.
than the brand
How
new.
is that different?
Okay.
Oh, it's,
It's got more zinc.
yeah. Okay, there's 3 left of these.
Wow, I'm flattered. Everybody loves that punch. I just made it.
All right.
When did
Well-
that thing come around?
What?
When did that thing come around?
That's Marge. That's,
Oh, I thought that was March.
that's the camera. This is the microphone.
Oh, so she's
Camera?
watching us too?
I didn't sign up.
No, I'm not. I guess stream it to the internet if people were really bored and wanted to watch a chapter meeting.
Yeah, right.
And if anybody
You know someone would.
Yeah.